It's been a while since we've been in these seats. Join us today while we discuss ranch events and secret missions over the past 2 months. Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. My father and co-host is Brandon. If you're finding our channel for the first time and enjoy the discussion we have, check out some of our shorter episodes. And if you want to see some of our videos of everyday ranch operations, check out, for example, our educational playlist. I think you'll enjoy that. Don't forget to share us with your friends, and please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions or want to add something, don't be afraid to give a comment or two. Today's gonna be some recent comments, so I'm just gonna run right into the intro. The past probably 40 minutes, we've been canoodling with the Wi-Fi and the computers, so that's how long it's been. In fact, before we got into setting up the computers, the last time we filmed was May 1st of this year, and it is currently July 12th. So it's been a full 2.5 months. I didn't realize it was quite that long, but we've been busy. We've been doing things. I got to see mom and dad again this year, thankfully. And I've been doing other things. I was gone for a whole 3.5 weeks at one point. The good thing is we sat down, we nailed a bunch of stuff and got it all prepped and readied. So we have been continuing to provide content while we've not been filming, but it's a hardship. Every time we've done this, it's always been like, hey, we're going to take a break on YouTube for a second. But this year we decided we're going to make sure we have content continually flowing, and we did a better job with that, seeing as we're not doing hangouts every week. It's more of a once a month thing. But goodness gracious, getting back into the groove of things is always a train wreck. And today, it's actually after work on a Wednesday for me, and after work and doing things after a Wednesday for dad. So we're tired, we're cranky, computers don't want to work. So we're gonna run into this.
God, I hate computers. Just detest them.
So first off, I'm just gonna throw the we're gonna start off with my normal like monologue, and it's gonna be not really a monologue, but rather just what we're gonna talk about, and I want to get dad's insight. Our recent happenings. We're just gonna cover what's been going on for the last 2.5 months since we have not filmed. We sat down to record for nearly 3 months. I put in the notes 2 months, but it's been nearly 3 months. But thankfully, we planned, recorded, prepared enough content to keep a consistent schedule over that entire time. So I hope our faithful following has enjoyed what we have provided during that time. But as a short recap of everything we've done since we last sat down, first off, I visited home and we got to hold our annual branding event. It gave us 4 longer educational videos, some drone footage, which was cool, short insight, and some ensuing video that I ended up sharing on Facebook after that. Some of our in the shoots and shorts, those episodes covered a first full year on the ranch for mom and dad, because it's always been dad for the last few years. Material for projects and fencing, or the acts thereof, as in like actually conducting the fencing and making the projects. Saddle maintenance, like some of the small things that we really haven't talked about before, but we're kind of getting around to because we need more content, and we thought about it and we talked about it and we made it happen. Breeding season for horses, clicker training with horses. That was a whiskey Wednesday with me and dad when we were sitting around drinking some craft brews and going live on, what was it, YouTube, and where dad's sitting right now. And I kind of cut that episode up and made it into a longer in the shoot training, or in the shoot episode. And then of course, mom and dad just about a week and a half ago had a vacation, and they helped me move some stuff. And so we made a small 8-minute video out of that, of them visiting Kentucky and Tennessee and some of the adventures they shared while sneaking away from the ranch for a very quiet escape. And then of course we tell everybody afterwards, because we're not going to share that information beforehand. Of course, we also had babies. We had 5 foals. One of them is going to be Braden, my brother's new workhorse in the next few years. And then there's an extra surprise that I want to throw in at the end. But we'll cover that in a few short minutes, or a really long discussion. So with that, I'll kick that over to dad with some of his thoughts on the initial concept of the things we're going to discuss.
Okay, well, yeah, first part of May before you come out was the last time we filmed. That was So much has happened since then. We have
Well,
got,
all the things I just lined out.
yeah. I mean, we were done calving.
Yeah,
Um, but the 11th of May, we had the last calf. We had a straggler there for it was late by a couple of 2 or 3 weeks, and then branded. Um, and it's just been getting a garden in. First time we've had a garden in years and years and years,
that's a good
and
point. I forgot
put
about
a
that.
ton of work into that. A lot of work, a lot of expense, and it's paying off now. We're eating strawberries that are so sweet. Oh my God. You don't even add sugar to them for like, a strawberry shortcake.
That's
Uh,
true.
Mom made a pie with fresh picked rhubarb. Went out and picked rhubarb, and we picked strawberries, and she went in and made a pie, and it was phenomenal. And um, I don't think you guys have ever eaten kohlrabi.
I
It's
don't even
it's
know what word you just said.
Yeah,
So,
it's a very strange looking. It almost looks like a little cabbage that grows above the ground and has shoots
okay.
that go straight up with big leaves. It almost looks like the cartoonish looking hops on a beer advertisement.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
not hot. It doesn't have the scales like hops does, but you cut those off and it just has a strange looking. We'll have to take some pictures of it and
Hmm.
maybe show that.
Okay.
You can do it real short or something sometime. But we just pulled them all because they were like this big around. I'm not kidding you. And I'm used to kohlrabi being about baseball size. These things
Yeah.
are enormous, but they're not bad. They're not woody or anything like that. So we took one the other night, peeled it, just kind of cut all the rind off and sliced it, and we put it in the air fryer. And it's kind of a cross between a potato and jicama and maybe a little bit of a radish, very, very light radish taste, not hot, but we gorged ourselves. It was it was good. Mom had never had kohlrabi. We used to have it when I was a kid all the time. We had a 5-gallon bucket sitting just inside the mudroom. And when you went to the garden, you take that 5-gallon bucket and you'd fill it with cucumbers and kohlrabi and squash and whatever. And then it sat there because these mostly were things that would just keep. And so you'd reach in there and you'd grab yourself a piece of kohlrabi or a cucumber and peel it, wash it, peel it, and eat it. And I mean, those were snacks. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, but you wouldn't do this with this kohlrabi. This thing is almost, I guess, I don't know. It's like I mean, literally this big. I mean, it was just enormous. And they're all like that. We had to go ahead and pull them and get them out of there. We didn't want them to grow anymore. So that was done. But yeah, harvesting some of the food off of there.
I'll tell you what. You guys
Late
got a
winter food.
dehydrator as well, and you
Yeah.
brought some of the dehydrated stuff to when you visited me. And I had a very full Ziploc of dehydrated strawberries. And I also had live strawberries so I could eat those fresh. Like you said, they didn't need sugar or anything. They were delicious, but the dehydrated stuff was fantastic too. That stuff was gobbled up within about 6 days. As
You
soon as
probably
you guys
rationed
left, it was
yourself then.
gone.
Yeah, well, and I always thought your mother was crazy. She wanted to bring you fresh strawberries from the garden, and
Yeah,
it was a sizable amount. I went, I don't know how we're doing this on
yeah,
the first day we drove 18 hours. The second day was 8 hours,
yeah.
and she did it. She pulled it off. Had it in a soft cooler, and she had blocks of ice there, and I mean, she babied that thing and took it in the motel room that night. It was yeah, your mother loves you, I guess
She
is the
put way
short.
more effort into taking care of me than I would take care of me. So
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the same way. But yeah, we're pulling stuff out of there. Lots of squash. We got a ton of potatoes that you guys helped uh
oh yeah.
plant when we were here. They're up and well up and growing like crazy. So hoping to get some decent potatoes and corn, the squash, the lettuce. We're eating lettuce where it's coming out of our ears.
That's
We
good.
got a neighbor that they've got a lot of chickens and they've got more eggs than they can handle. So the other day he texted me and he said, "Hey, you want some eggs?" And I texted back and I said, "Oh, I'll trade you some lettuce for it." He says, "Okay, 3 dozen sounds good." And I said, "All right, 150-pound bale of lettuce and all the radishes you can take. So it wasn't long, and he and his wife showed up with and they actually had a little cooler of beer to bring over, and 3 dozen eggs, and we sat and, oh my goodness, we visited for several hours and drank a beer together, and it was good. So yeah, this is the kind of thing that, the zucchini squash that you grow in the mid to late summer. That's when you don't go to town and leave your windows rolled down, because the whole pickup will be filled with zucchinis that people are trying to get rid of. And here we are the same way. I'm going to give a bunch of lettuce away tomorrow to some people that don't have any. So that's it's the way it works. That's how it goes, and that's a good thing.
We had to pause for a second to get some of those technical glitches we referred to earlier fixed. Dad didn't have a microphone connected, so
where's my grip?
Down.
Where are my people?
Yeah. I'm 1,500 miles away. Sorry. Anyway,
you telling me how to.
you said fencing. You continue with fencing.
So, got an idea that I won't share yet, but we might make some film on it. But I might have to invent something that I know might be useful. And it kind of is a poor man's jackhammer. Pneumatic. I like pneumatic. It beats the hell out of muscle.
Yeah.
With a spud bar. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm scheming and devising, because when you were out, we dug a couple post holes, and they were brutal, and we're still not down with the one.
There were a couple that, it took some work, but we got her done. It wasn't too bad, but that one, like, goodness gracious, I had a whole discussion with somebody the other day. Like, what's the elevation of Kentucky where we're at? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I thought we were shorter than we were. I thought it was like, what was it? 300 feet. I looked at it. Where I currently live is like 496. Okay. So give or take 500 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
Then I go home, which is okay. Let's keep in mind that's better by 500 feet than where I used to live. But then I go back home, and now it's like 3,400 feet. And like I was telling somebody the other day, when you walk around, like, you're not going to feel it. When you're just hanging around, doing whatever, moving, it's not a big deal. It's when you go to exert yourself and you're using some muscle, that's when you're like, oh, I can't breathe. And that's what happened. And we just could not get through a couple shelves of sandstone, and it was horrible. And that was the one post that I think you're about to refer to, which we never got done.
We worked on that thing and worked on it, and then that other priorities took place, and I'm working on it. We're gonna try this, but we're actually here at the ranch for about 3,700 feet, which is not very high. It's really not. It's
for Montana, it's not.
No, that's pretty low. So, but it's funny to watch when you come home, especially when
funny on my end.
when you were in New York, that area on the Great Lakes, and it's 0, or if you stand on a beer can, 8 inches above sea level, and then you'd come here and we'd be doing some fencing or something like that, and you're just like, you're gassed, and I'm like, oh, I know why he is, and you were mad because you couldn't figure out why you were gassing out, and I was out working you, and you can't breathe. You're not used to even 3,500 feet, or 3,699 and a half feet. If you're standing on that beer can.
Yeah.
So it makes a huge difference, and you don't really realize it till you see somebody and how they work in one place and then how they work somewhere else. And it's nothing to take lightly.
Well, and like I was telling somebody the other day, it's not only, there's two things that it indicates the elevation change, and you'll feel it every time. With how much I have changed in elevation over the last 7 years, essentially, and understanding how my body feels. It's physical exertion, which is, engaging the muscles, because your muscles just can't breathe. That's the one. And that's what I said earlier. The other, believe it or not, people are like, oh, no, it's when you drink a beer. If you're used to drinking, let's say you sit down for a night, you get done with, a Friday night, and you're like, hey, I'm going to kick back, relax. I'm going to have like 2 whiskeys, or I'm going to sit back and have like 3-4 beers. Okay. That's your normal on a Friday night. And you're like, okay, I'm feeling it. Oh, nice, easy, just relax and just okay, nice little buzz. You go back home. I found this out the hard way. I went with my brother back to my college days back into Bozeman, which is 4,400 feet. We went to a brewery and I had one beer and I'm halfway through the second one. I go, oh, hold on a second. Something just happened. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, I'm coming from New York. Like, I just realized the elevation just hit me. It's a thing.
The thing.
Beer and muscle endurance. Those are the two things that'll get you.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It'll hit you quick. Oh, that's
Oh,
funny.
but
I don't
yeah.
worry about that
Anyway,
because I only drink once in a while and not very much.
yeah. But anyway, some of us enjoy our youth, so we're trying to
Oh, I'm not
taking
saying
it.
I didn't enjoy my youth. I'm just damn glad there were no cell phones around at the time to record some of the shenanigans we got in.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the truth. All
And
right.
it would be funny, just the goofy stuff you do. Anyway, nothing harmful.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start with my visit home because we got that kind of set up already for the segue to the next thing. So, like I said, a quick recap: visited home. That was end of May, right around, and then I actually left on Memorial Day. So, it gave us 4 longer videos in the educational playlist. If anybody's interested, it's the branding prep, which you can check up above. Branding itself, we've been filming branding for the last 3-4 years that we've been on YouTube. We've collected all the videos and we've taken care of that and we've added it on there. So I hope everybody enjoys that as well. And that's branding the cows. We do have some horse stuff too. And then a second one or a third one, sorry, is a new branding perspective, which again, you can throw that up there as well. Um, Goodness gracious, we got a drone. And that was cool. That created a third video, which I enjoyed putting together because it it forced me to do a little bit more editing, but I learned some stuff like throwing some sound in there and making it cool and like because the drone doesn't give you audio, so I have to make audio. So that's what happened. And then we had
Well,
some branding
the
bloopers, which are
unboxing of the drone was the fun part.
yeah, which I don't think we filmed.
Well, we didn't, but what we had done is you didn't even know we had bought the drone because we had put it
No.
out on I think you put it on Facebook for some suggestions, and I talked to
Yeah.
some people who give us,
Yeah.
and we really got nailed down into the majority of the people that we really are using them, and we see a lot. They
You get a phone
are
call down there?
yeah. I get a phone call down here,
Oh, that's cool.
so I get it. That's somebody. I'm trying to shut this thing down. Sorry. How do we get this thing to shut up?
I didn't
Yeah.
realize you guys got one down in the I
Yeah.
guess it makes sense down in the studio, but still.
Yeah. No, I just muted it. I'm sorry. Sorry. Anyway, we never get phone calls, hardly ever. So I don't even think about shutting it off. But we had gotten a very small drone that your mother uses in her science
Yeah,
classes from
you sure did.
NASA.
And it was
And
small. It was like
very
it was
small.
about the size of my hand. It really was. That's about the size it was.
Yeah. And it had horrible control. I played with it a little bit and it was like, no, this sucks.
And
And
so
so
and to keep you in mind, like dad doesn't play video games, but I do on occasion. And I play Xbox. I don't play like PlayStation. Xbox to me is a little more user friendly if anybody's familiar with it. And I can pick things up fairly decently with those controls because they tend to be more similar to a lot of like drone stuff.
Mhm.
And I struggled too. Like I crashed hard.
Well, but the whole idea of this is we told you we reboxed this thing and told you that it was the drone that we
Yeah.
bought. And of course, you're like, hey, you guys are old, you're incompetent, you got this drone. I say, yeah, we're excited for you to do it. We didn't even open it up, and you bid on that. I was surprised that it came in like an Amazon box that we repackaged it in, and then you put it together, and you were so frustrated and couldn't and just mad. It was like, I can't believe what'd you spend on this? And I said, well, like $1,000, you know.
And I believed it, which I
Yeah.
shouldn't have because I was like, I've seen stuff like this, which is like 60, but all
Oh
right.
yeah. And so I know you were thinking, oh man, they just took hard. So
I was like,
And
and well, I was determined at that point. I was like, they spent this amount of money. I have to figure out how to make this thing work. Like,
so we let you struggle for what was that, about a half an hour or so,
it
maybe.
felt like a day and a half, but yeah, probably only a half hour.
Oh, we were enjoying it.
I'm sure you were.
And then we said, okay, here's the other one. And then we brought the real drone out, and then we didn't see you for like 2 days because all you did was play with the
That's
drone and
not true. That's not
get
true at all.
but it's like a little kid on Christmas morning. So, but no, that worked out really well. We got some really good shots, and I've actually used it since you left a time or two. You
Yeah,
know,
that's what mom said,
yeah,
which is handy because that's how we found our first baby.
right.
We were like, hey, so and so's not in the corner with the other mares. I wonder if she had a baby. And we're like, well, let's find out. I go out to the sidewalk in my boots and my shorts, set it out there, and pop her up, and I throw it out. I'm like, yep, there's a little head that just popped out of the grass. I think we got a baby.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's funny though that nesting birds don't seem to like that drone at all. They are
Birds and
attacking it.
birds at all, nesting or
Yeah,
not. They
yeah. It's it's a lot louder than they are, and I think they think it's just a predator, um, and they're just kind of in attack mode and trying to
well,
drive.
I'm not even sure about that. I think it's just, I have a feeling they think it's more or less just another bird that's coming into their area, and they're
Yeah,
like, "No, get out of here." Because there's been a couple times. There's three modes, which here I'll throw the third video. I can only do five in a whole video, so that's my third one. The third one, I did a drone review of it, and it kind of showed some of the footage, and there's a couple of shots that you can see a bird coming into the camera, and it's like clearly coming at it. But what I explained in the video was there's three modes to it. There's cinema, which is the slowest. It's like 6 meters a second. And then there's like medium or regular, which is 10 meters a second. And then there's sport, which is 16 meters a second. And so you go 6, 10, and 16 all meters per second. And there's been times where those birds are coming and they almost hit that thing, and I'm going cinema mode. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I pause for ever so much of a second and flip the switch to sport, and I just take off, and they can't keep up because I was like, I'm not crashing this thing.
so you engage the Enterprise.
100%. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Oh, that's funny.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but that was a good thing. I mean, we've been talking about it for a long time. You've been wanting to get a drone, and well,
yeah.
let's go ahead and a lot of consideration and a lot of help from a lot of people that we thank for that. That was most helpful. That relying on somebody else's expertise and what to start with, and you can spend a stupid amount of money on a drone, and it's like, no, I'm not doing that. Spent more than I
Yeah.
wanted to anyway, but for something that's some decent quality and controllability, um, it was a good choice, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, and honestly, it's just the fact that you can get another shot, that everything we do right now is by hand. And when we can get an overhead shot, like it just adds that extra
Yeah,
layer to some of our videos that we're like,
got a
cool,
different
it's some
perspective.
B-roll.
Yeah,
Yeah, different perspective. Um, which yeah, again, the new perspective was cool because everything we put into that video was um it was either first person. And so instead of having a video camera that shot like you from the side, it had like my perspective as I went and did stuff, whether it was in my hand, on the GoPro on my chest, or like I said, using the drone. So being able to create something new, it was all branding. So we had 4 videos specifically, all from that branding event. So we had the preparations, all the stuff, setting the head catch, setting the gates, getting everything set. We had to fill in dirt because, believe it or not, for the first time in many years, we've had a lot of water. So we got to exploit some of that, but we had to also fill in the water that was creating itself around the trough.
well,
And
dirt.
then,
Yeah, the dirt got washed away. Yep.
yeah. And then the branding part was the second part. Then the new perspective, which I already made the card for. And then we had bloopers, which, goodness gracious, I don't ever want to do wrestling out of a head catch again. That was such a cluster.
That is the worst. I was like, are you sure you want to do this? Oh yeah, we want to do this. What the heck? All right.
That was not from me. Let's make that very clear. I was not the one that said that. I was
Oh,
not the one that said that.
it happened. I know. It's just that's the way it goes. That's all right.
So next time we do that, we're gonna make sure we do it the right way, which is through the roping method.
Well, and you got to get set up for that. That's you just don't do that for a few head. That's foolish to
Yeah,
do that.
yeah. But
I mean,
anyway,
at that point, it's just then it's scripted when you do something like that.
well, and that's what happened. And then it just, I mean, hey, we got some good shots of me just getting destroyed in the face. I got a calf's butt right in the head. And I'm actually kind of surprised I didn't see some stars. Seeing that footage afterwards, I was like, wow, I thought I got hit less harder than that, but it looks really bad. And then, of course, I put my high school wrestling skills to implementation, so to speak, with one calf. I was rolling in the dirt, and that was not good.
That's funny.
Do
Yeah.
you remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Then you
doesn't
all
work
right,
on four-legged critters.
you said the garden. Um,
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about the garden a little. I know I helped you a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the garden, but the benefits of the garden I did
You
enjoy.
will. You'll become a fan. And the way it is now, most everything is in raised beds, except for some of
Yeah.
the corn and squash and potatoes. But we're making our own herbs. And
Herps.
fact is, tomorrow, I believe you're getting a package of all kinds of different herbs that were dehydrated and packaged in vacuum seal and
Mm.
sent to you. So you should be getting that. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be tomorrow. Anyway, um, yeah, we got herbs coming out the wazoo, and a lot of perennial plants, so that you got a lot of bees around for pollination. It's a really good little project, and we're gonna make some bumps because it's been a long, long time since I've done any kind of food preparation like that. The canning part and the dehydration, we haven't done that. And we were really kind of torn between dehydrating and freeze drying. Freeze drying, you can get a long term out of that, but it is expensive. And I was like,
Oh,
no.
really? I didn't know. I
Oh,
mean, I guess it
God.
makes sense because you're doing kind of two things at once, and
Yeah, and then the quality of food is good. I mean, it's there, but when you rehydrate something like rehydrate freeze dried meat, like not so
I
good.
would also consider, and this goes back to like some of our conversations with things like the fake meat,
Right.
plant-based proteins. I would think that something like that, you would also lose your nutritional value when you freeze it hard like that too.
Yeah, I don't.
It
You
might be a
don't.
percentage, not a big amount, but like let's say 10% nutritional value just lost at quick freeze drying it like that. But I
I
don't
don't
know.
think there's much loss there. It's the same as
Hmm.
dehydrating. You don't lose much because all you're doing is you're taking the liquid away from it in two different forms. One you're just air drying it with a little bit of
Yeah.
heat. The other one is a flash freeze dry and vacuuming it, you sucking it out that way. But canning, while canning is good and very effective, we've been doing that for hundreds and hundreds of years. Um,
Well,
but
actually, not
it's
technically
not
hundreds
any.
and hundreds. It's only been about 150 because they figured
Yeah,
it out
probably 100.
during the Civil War,
Well,
American Civil War.
yeah, didn't yeah, because I thought
Well,
Napoleon
Uncle
was.
Google, Uncle Google, hold on.
I think Napoleon was the first one to can stuff for troops, and it was kind of a train wreck because I think it had a lot of lead in the cans.
So it says the first can arrives in America in 1825 as Thomas Kensit and Ezra Daggett sell their patented cans filled with oysters, fruits, and meats. When did canning first arrive? 1811 is what it says. So we're talking just over a hair over 200 years.
200 years, yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
not it's not really it's still I would consider it a modern invention.
yeah, yeah, hundreds and hundreds is a hyperbole. I shouldn't have said that, but um, it's a process that really hasn't changed a lot. I mean, you may have the different
Oh yeah,
forms
it's
how to
pretty
do it,
basic.
but at the same time, when you heat stuff up to sterilize, the product or the product's containers and that kind of stuff, it's it's not good nutritionally. You start washing out some of those vitamins and minerals. So,
Well, and that's the
ooh,
problem with
speaking
preservation.
of, look at this.
That's the problem with preservation regardless though. You're going to take away from it in one way or another. What is that?
Mm, that that is squash. that is
Yeah, I'll pass.
must be air fried. Oh,
Oh, air fried squash. I'd try that. I
oh,
would
it's
try
good.
that for sure.
Mm. Go ahead, talk amongst yourselves.
But I mean,
Ooh.
like I
Mm.
said though, canning to me is still a modern invention. But
Mhm.
then at the same time, like, it's still something that's been proven and it's pretty simplistic in its approach, but it's still very well it's useful for a lot of things. And but to your point, whether it's freeze dry or I think dehydrated or
Mm.
canned,
Thank
I
you.
think there are potential issues with preservation no matter what. I mean, you see that today with things like MREs in the military with
Oh yeah.
meals ready to eat, with, the processed foods we see today. And those are arguments we've made in other conversations about plant-based proteins, but like preservation or the additives thereof to ensure preservation can sometimes be a downfall as well. I think less so with things more holistic in a sense to dehydration and canning, but it's still there regardless.
Right, and that's what we're doing. I mean, we're not doing this for a high production. It's about,
Sure.
for ourselves, and yeah, we're not adding anything to it for the preservation of it.
No.
That's why you have a garden annually. You
Right.
try to put enough away. And some of the stuff, let's face it, we're not gonna save the lettuce. We're not gonna,
No. That doesn't make
so
sense to do that. Unless
no.
could you
Eh,
potentially make a weird coleslaw with it, like an odd coleslaw?
well, coleslaw out of cabbage, but
I know, but like
you can sauerkraut, and then you can can it. You
is
could
that
do
where
that.
sauerkraut comes from? Lettuce?
Cabbage,
Oh, okay. Never mind.
cabbage. It's fermented cabbage, basically, is what you're
See, I
doing.
just don't like sauerkraut. I've tried so many. It's like kimchi. I've tried so many
Same
times to
thing.
like it. I can't do it.
Well, they really ferment the kimchi. I
I
think.
know. And I
Uh,
love kombucha, which kombucha is fermented, whatever they
yeah.
do. But I love that stuff. Kimchi, can't do it. Sauerkraut, tried, can't do that either. I'm like, mm-mm.
No, but there's going to be some things that we can traditionally, and then a lot of stuff that will dehydrate. And we've done jerky for years. We like that and dehydrate that, and you know, what the heck, freeze it. We can package it and freeze it for to help prolong that a little bit as well.
Yeah,
Uh, when you can dry your herbs and some of that stuff out is good. But then you
herbs.
also, we got the we've got the root vegetables like carrots, beets, those sorts of things.
Radish.
Radishes, you can keep those pretty well in our cellar, basically in a sand bucket. Put them in there. You get all the dirt off, and it's dry but cool, and put them in
I
there,
didn't think
and
about
it's
that.
amazing how long those things will keep.
What about asparagus? Because
Oh, we got
that's kind of
asparagus too.
that's kind of a weird one too. Is that considered like a root vegetable or no?
No, 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 no. I mean, it's you're eating the shoots off of the plant, but
Oh, the
we're
shoots. Okay.
yeah. I mean, that's the little that those come fast too. They're little
I
lifespan.
know. I was
Yeah.
surprised at how fast they came. When I was
Oh yeah.
there, I think there was maybe this much visible. And then by the time I left, like it was edible.
From
It
seed.
was,
Yeah.
it was 6, 8 inch long and they
Yeah.
had shot up. And that was over the course of 10 days.
Well, and we've had very few uh, of the asparagus plants, so we're not harvesting many of those. We got a big mound where they go,
Yeah.
and so we're letting them all go to seed, and we'll let them repopulate right there in that area, and they're around a bunch of annual flowers and stuff too, because you
Yeah.
know, you know, the plan is to have sustainability with some of our own stuff, and then make it look nice and at the same time functional.
Yeah.
Uh,
Functional. That's
yeah,
good. I was
yeah,
going to say useful, but functional is a better
yeah,
word.
yeah. But then it's right next to the fire pit, so you got a garden
Yeah.
and a flower garden partially interspersed within it and on the edges, and then we got that set out so that the yard at the edge of the yard is a fire pit and a place to sit, and we're still working on that, putting some more stone down, some big flagstones from some of the other stuff we've done around there. But trees, we planted a bunch of trees this year too. Your mother and her buying trees every year. So
So glad I wasn't there for that.
yeah, it's I love doing that. I love getting the trees, but oh my gosh, when those trees show up, they can keep for a little bit in their package, but
Oh yeah, but you got to do it.
you can't just say, we'll get to that next month. No,
Yeah.
you got to do it and have it all planned out and so, typical of your mom wants my input. Where do you want these? And I'm like, well, where do you want them? I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't care.
you know, I, let's get them someplace where they're not going to be in the way because you don't want to move
Yeah.
them, and so a bunch of lilac bushes and aspen trees and ash trees. So those were the three big ones, and we planted a
Which
bunch down there on that spring. This, about it, put some aspen trees down there and get that kind of repopulated.
which if I remember correctly, I don't remember exactly, but actually no, hold on. I got a schedule here somewhere. Um we talked about this earlier this year. I think it was ooh, April timeframe maybe about mom's, we had a in the shoot or I think it was an in the shoot about mom's planning for plants and some of the things. She's like,
Yeah,
oh, let me grab my list. And that's kind of how it went. But
that's mom.
yeah.
That's true.
All right. Moving on, because I don't want to bore people too much, but um the last thing that I had for my visit home, which I did not expect to actually do, it just kind of happened. And it's kind of usual as to how this works. But I wrote a short insight and created an ensuing film with the voiceover from that insight. So I wrote it. It was more or less like a short story, which is what I normally do, but it was different. It wasn't fictional. It was a biographical insight, I guess is how you should say it.
Situational. Yeah.
Oh yeah, almost like an op-ed if people were to explain it. And then what I did was I took it, I voiced over it, and I used a lot of the film that we had done while I was home. There was some stuff from years past, but I took the film, edited, added it. So therefore the story, which was narrated by me, was put over the video and created that. It actually got a lot of support. People were like, "Hey, I love your stuff." Like made me want to write some more. It makes me feel good inside. What'd you think about? I was just curious what you thought about that because that was not something I expected to do. The videos we always do, I expect, but the writing I did not expect to do, and I was just like, you know what? Let me write this real quick. And then I ended up making the film even more surprisingly to me because I did not think to do that, but so many people liked and commented on it and on social media that I was like, let's throw a video in here with it. And that even took off. For the past 2,341 days, I have lived a relatively soft life. This past week has been a helpful reminder in that perspective, particularly for where I came, where I am, and where I intend to return. I spent 11 days home as my final visit before I returned for good in less than 250 days. It was a reminder that life when I come home may be a bit of a rude awakening from the lifestyle I now enjoy. Muscles I normally ignore were quite rudely reawakened during my visit. A different form of fatigue encapsulated me, so much so it took 3 full nights before I felt truly rested again. My body ached, and it still does to some extent, from work done nearly 1 week since. My joints, muscles, and scrapes reminded me of the Friday night light train wrecks I endured as a 16 and 17-year-old kid. Despite the sharp pains and dull aches, I finally got some of that long sought after sound sleep that most of us adults find elusive. Part of the trip's tiredness may originate from excitement to see family, but largely it came from the daily grind of work on a ranch. The crazy thing, my parents went easy on me. We finished early to visit my brother, finished early to visit a brewery, finished early to enjoy the weather and eat outside before the arrival of much welcomed spring thunderstorms. All of this was so much easier than I recall when I was a teenager working ranch projects dispersed amongst weekends. The time where a priceless day or two between Friday games and Monday morning school starts, or wrestling tournaments and track meets sandwiched necessary ranch tasks with the required attendance of academics. During those times, we stole 4 to 6 hours of hard work from a weekend day, which coupled with at least 3 hours of commuting, where my brother and I snuck in homework in the back seat of the pickup as we sped down the 72 miles of highway and gravel road each way. I finished my travels to the ranch with an annual branding event on Sunday and flew away early the next morning before the sun had a chance to rise above the sandstone rims behind the house. In fact, I always feel a tinge of guilt leaving the ranch when I depart because it seems as if I am some secret mistress sneaking away in the middle of the night. This time, Dad jokingly told me as we bumped down the drive, This is the last time I do this for you, and I'm excited for that statement to be fully realized one day. All the reminiscing and physical reminders of my visits, escapades, made me consider a lesson on ranching, agriculture specifically. Agriculture is a unique industry. It is fulfilling, simultaneously stressful and stress relieving, while demanding physically, emotionally, and financially, even to the best. Ranching and farming are at times antiquated, which also makes them rife with tradition. Agriculture poses challenges from weather, low margins, unpredictable markets, and all while often being misunderstood by those not within the industry themselves. Personally, experiencing agriculture can be one of the most fulfilling things to encounter when you see your improvements over time. You can see where you were and where you are now, and it is a fantastic experience. While stressful because of the emotional toll of livestock loss, financial worries, and constantly arising issues, the physical work day in and day out helps alleviate the stress in ways most people can only find in a gym. Processes and ways about doing things are often antiquated for many reasons, but that nod to a long history often presents opportunities to share culture, traditions, and significant events now seen as unpopular, like branding season. Challenges are unending with unpredictable weather, unknown possibilities with markets, and unending hopes of a better year. Despite losing public support more and more each year, agriculture still has some of the most genuine, sincere, and happiest people in the world because agriculture has meaning. Farming and ranching inherently holds purpose simply due to the nature of the business. As humans, we need farmers and ranchers, we need agriculture. There are the common reasons, such as food and clothing and additional byproducts. However, men and women within agriculture are very much stewards of the land and want what is best for the piece of earth that helps take care of them. They hold small preserves of history and lineage, ways to look back at where we started as yeoman farmers in the 18th and 19th centuries. They care for the environment and want nothing more than to care for the very earth that helps keep them and consumers alive, while also educating and informing those around them, so they no longer have a dwindling approval rating. What I wish people understood more was they also need to be reminded of their roots. At one point in our history, we all started as hunter gatherers, then improved our methods of survival through farming, which then evolved in some respects into ranching. The physical demands of agriculture should be appreciated more than we allow today. Now we often use vacations for exotic experiences, but if someone wants to reconnect and learn about their past while learning about their present, they should investigate agricultural experiences and see how hard it can be just to do some of the simplest things. At the end of the day, we should all visit a ranch or a farm and see how the real world works. Things are slower. Families work together to care for animals, land, and environment, and they all do it with immeasurable gratitude.
In a way, it's a surprise, but in a way, it wasn't, because you do that occasionally. You'll write something, and I know your character combinations or characters are combinations of a number of different people,
Yeah.
and it's a agglomeration of different characters in your life. Sometimes I see myself in there. Sometimes I see my dad. Sometimes my grandpa's,
Yeah.
to a
Uh,
smaller extent.
I was gonna say so if anybody's curious with what I write, you can always find me. I just made a dedicated Facebook page called The Hashknife Kid. There's a symbol on there that you'll see it. It's got a silhouetted dude leaning against it, which I felt was important. But I've always done that. It's always been kind of the men I've looked up to, which is you and Grandpa, and then of course, personal experiences from me coupled with the things I saw with Braden, and I know what Braden experiences. So there's four of us, right?
Yeah, I
And
see
then
your
I
brother in there too. Yep.
and then I grew up with one of my great grandpas, which I knew him lesser to an extent. And to me, I was so little. He was just so grumpy all the time, I felt like. But he was also frustrated with what he was dealing with, which was Parkinson's. And that's
Yeah.
your body's being encapsulated into something that you're not used to your entire life. And now you're having to fight that. And then to an extent, I throw in stuff from my grandfather from your side that's also your maternal grandfather. So the man that I never met, I've heard plenty of stories about. We've got a picture hanging in the ranch house with him. I've seen some pictures, and I've been told that I sometimes have some of his characteristics. There's a lot of similarities between us. Um, so the things, all of that coupled together, those six people, right? No, five people, sorry. No, six. That's six. You, grandpa, my brother and I, and then the two great grandpas on that side. I kind of put them all together, and that's the character I create normally. But this was just personal experience that I put into the insight. So
Yeah, and that was what was different about it. But the funny thing about it is and your writing is always very strong and a very emotional writing. And I
score.
see, but no, and when I read these things, it's things that I've felt myself, but never
Put the
either
word.
talked about or put the word, or
Yeah.
it's just something that, yeah, it's what it is. And it's funny because it's on the same pieces of property that I grew up on as a running around out there as a feral little kid,
Yep.
uh, doing things and busting rocks and chasing animals and as I mean just a little guy. Um, Probably should have been better supervised. It was so, and it worked out mostly, but those same emotions come up in your writing, and it's like, it's too bad the dad isn't here or my grandpa's, because I'll bet you it would touch them in exactly the same way. I there's because of the conversations I've had with them
Yeah.
over the years growing up. I mean, there's no way that it would not affect them emotionally the same way. It has to. So that's really cool. And that perspective, yeah, that was all you. That was not that was all your first person experience of what was going on at the time and what was happening at the ranch this year, and kind of tidying up, your career and coming home.
Well, I was like, man, I was coming home, I was flying that day, and it's like I'd cut myself because first off, I was drinking a little too much that night. Second off, we're
We
trying.
did drink some whiskey. Yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah. We had plenty of whiskey, but
all of us.
we were
Mother.
we were making gumbo for the crew, and me like not thinking I knew better. I 100% knew better, but you're just having fun, joking, drinking whiskey, and you cut yourself like, ah, darn it. Not the words I used. And so, of course, everything that's got blood on it, remove that. Like, mom, I need help. So, doing that, I'm like, man, that really hurt. So, I'm dealing with that like the last day I'm home doing branding, and that like I literally bled through my bandage because it was deep enough because I was really dumb. And then I realized, like, okay, I'm flying back to Kentucky. I got this bandage. I'm like, dang, my back and my hips hurt. And oh, you know what? My knees kind of hurt too. I'm starting to get old. Like, I'm feeling all this stuff. I'm like, this makes me think about something. And that's what came up with the insight. So
Oh,
that's
I'll be damned.
that's
Well,
why
and
I
it's
did it.
true. It's very true. It's
Oh,
funny.
coming up
Uh,
to that 3-0, it hurts,
y-
man.
yeah. And I can, and I can remember being in college and not being home for months at a time and missing doing stuff
Oh
and
yeah.
feeling guilty because I wasn't here to help, at some small things that would come up.
Yeah.
Dad was trying to do alone. And I can remember coming home one time. I'd worked all night, got off work at like 5 in the morning. I was working at a warehouse, uh, that,
Night
full-time
shift
job
stuff.
doing that and yeah, night shifts and going to school during the day. And it was a Friday night or a Thursday night because you get Friday and Saturday off and you have to go back to work on Sunday night. And so we didn't have any school that day. And so I thought, I'm gonna run home. And I just left from work, had my bag packed and stuff, and told Dad I was coming. And I pull in the yard, and what has he got? But and it's just daylight has probably been up. Maybe the sun's been up for half an hour at the most. Nice, beautiful, cool morning. And what is there? But here's a horse saddled, or two horses saddled. He'd already saddled a horse for me and one for him. And I didn't even go in the house, just walked over. We jumped on some ponies and went out and did some riding and just kind of enjoyed, and so, yeah, those things, him doing that, he knew what I was feeling because he had to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and knew how important that was, just to get grounded again and get home and do some stuff. And as it turns out, and I try to do that with you guys. You get a little bit of work done, but you just don't hit it hard like you do when when you guys.
When you're in
Uh,
high school, you're like, all right, boys, we got Saturday and Sunday, let's go.
yeah, we got some work to do, and if you bring your buddies along and they get mouthy about how tough they are and how strong they are, let's see. I'll work them into the dirt. I'll go side by side with them, and they'll be begging for mama to come get them.
Which
And
I hope people appreciate, because I put that in that story.
I guess you did, didn't you? Yeah.
I did. I was like, man, I remember it being harder when I was a kid.
Yeah. No,
It still
that's
hurts.
true.
All right. Anyway, episodes. We had some episodes covered. Like I said, we prepped some film stuff before we went on our hiatus. Episodes covered, like I said, the first full year on the ranch with you and mom. Material projects and fencing. We kind of talked about that and actually doing it. Saddle maintenance, which we had some comments on that one, which was kind of surprising. It was kind of, at this point, we've done this almost 3 years. We're coming to the point where it's like new content. Like, we're doing the same stuff every month. Like every September, it's like, oh, we're preconditioning calves. Every October, oh, hey, they're going out and they're getting sold. Every November, they're going and we're starting winter feeding, and then it's winter feeding until
Drug test.
freaking
Yeah.
March, and then suddenly calving starts. It's just like it's the same stuff, and we're like, hey, what's something we can do? Saddle maintenance was one. Well, we had a couple comments that you said something about, I'd like to go out there and make sure it's dry first off, check your rigging, like all these different things, the tie, and make sure it's not dry rot. And a suggestion you had in there also was, make sure you use castor oil, because the rodents also tend to not like that, but it also hydrates the leather. And there's some comments that were like, hey, you know what? Didn't think about that. That's a good idea. Thanks for sharing.
That was in
Never
the old
considered it.
army. That was in the old army pack manual. And it
Really?
really,
Didn't know
yeah,
that.
it isn't really so much to keep the leather hydrated. It's just a very light coat over the top
Yeah.
to keep rodents away.
Yeah. No,
And
and
it helps a lot. Works.
it's those small nuggets that we provide that
There
hopefully
you
we
go.
get more followers.
It'll make me go straight to heaven.
Yeah. We talked about breeding season for horses, which we have some of those videos too, if anybody's ever interested. Not only the educational discussion types like this, but also some of the actual, like, showing what we do. And then, card up above, we had the longer in the shoot conversation about clicker training with horses, because I felt it was just more necessary to do it in a positive manner via a casual conversation rather than a full length hangout conversation of me complaining about the horse community. Because, man, it could have went really bad real fast, because I just get so sick and tired of our own community sometimes. But I thought we had some good insight. You provided some good perspective to a lot of things, so I wanted to make sure to cut that up, edit it to apply just to that conversation, and then put it up there. But
Well, that's and that's a double-edged sword. I sometimes get frustrated with people, but it's egos get involved. I think we talked about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
If I'm
it's a
doing
lot of
something,
it.
I must be better than everybody else. And it's like, no, you can learn something from everybody. You
Yeah.
can learn sometimes what to do and what not to do. It's all valuable. And it's all in the application of it. So, but
Well,
no, it's
what's interesting to me is, and going back to kind of what we were talking about with me writing and stuff, is talking about ancestors, but the the community around horses is just so much more different from the cattle industry, which is what irritates me, because I see so many things where they could be the same, but they're not. And the horse community to me is just so adverse to each other. They're like, no, this is my piece of the pie. You're stealing from me, my concepts, my philosophy, my training style, my clients. And then the cattle industry is like, we're all about efficiency, producing the most with the least amount, and making sure people have food on the table, and hey, what's the best way to do it? And one of the best one of the best compliments I've heard personally, which I know you have had because you shared it with me, but then I again had it a couple years ago, was somebody saw the brand on the hat and they said, hey, are you Yates Allen's grandkid? I'm like, nope, I'm the great grandkid. I never met him, but I know about him. And he goes, he's one of the best cattlemen I ever knew. And it's those things like you never hear. That's one of the best horsemen I ever knew. Sometimes it happens with some of the, you know, the rodeo greats or the cutting horse greats, but you don't hear that, but with the cattlemen, you're always like, that guy knew his stuff around
Yeah.
some cows. And there's like, it's just a totally different aspect. And that's where I get so frustrated, I think.
Well, it's a whole niche in a cave that nobody knows about,
Yeah. Yeah.
about the people that are in it.
Yeah.
And there's some admiration there, and there's judgmental folk in there. Don't get
Right.
everybody. There still
Sure.
are, but you're like, oh, maybe they're doing that this way. And the ones that are very successful are very good, a good reputation. People know about. But that's again, uh, my grandpa's now been dead for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people that don't know who he is anymore. So those people are
Right.
all dying off too, and which comes back to why your other grandpa was so grumpy. He's 80 some years old, and the life he led,
Oh yeah.
he was really having a hard time one time. And they asked, what's the matter? He goes, all my friends are dead. I shouldn't have lived
Mhm.
this long. I've got nobody but us.
Especially
But
him, the way he
it,
lived life, like
oh,
hell. You want to talk about whiskey bent and raising hell? Like,
oh, yeah. No, and no, and he knew he shouldn't have lived, but he did. He outlived all of his friends, outlived everybody, and all he had was us. And there is something about that, even though that you're their close family, there's something about peers that you grew up with, or you had worked side by side with and had experiences with that were not your family, and you can relate to those people that in a way that you can't to your family.
right.
And those are some important relationships. And you know what, some of those people die early and some of them die late, and those that die late are alone, in a very, very strange and hard to fathom way. And if you're fortunate enough to live that long and outlive most people, and you've had a good life doing it, I mean, that's the bad part with it.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's just some of those things, man. So anyway, oh goodness gracious, I messed that up. We're gonna skip ahead here. I'm trying to undo what my notes said, so forgive me. The next thing was babies. Babies, babies, babies. We had five, count them, five foals. I think three were horse colts and two were fillies. Is that correct? Yep.
That's right.
One of those was also a horse colt, and that will be Braden's, is from his mare. He will be raising that. His horse is just getting a little too old, and I think he's off to retirement with my horse. Um, and it's and well earned. He's lasted much longer than mine did. But he's looking forward to this new guy, and he's calling him Rooster for whatever reason.
Well, it's after Rooster Cogburn.
Is that what it is?
Yes, yeah, True Grit.
Goofy
Yeah,
bugger. All right.
he loves watching those. And I think he makes his girlfriend sit down and watch him too. He goes, because they had a conversation one time. She didn't know who some character was in a John Wayne movie, and he flipped out. He goes, "All right, you're watching John Wayne
All right. I
movies."
mean, rightfully so. You still need to understand the
Yeah,
context. But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
but we got five of them. There was supposed to be a sixth. We're gonna discuss that. Eventually, we're gonna hopefully get that sixth one someday. We're gonna figure it out though. More to come. It's an ongoing filming process, so it will be shared one day, but today is not that day. Um, like I said, Braden, one of them is Braden's, so that gives us another two. So two Colts and two Phillies. And I mean, everybody loves babies. So we shared the pictures on Facebook. We shared them on Instagram. Um, we'll make sure to update the website. But everybody loves babies. So that film will be coming out eventually once everything's kind of finished up. But essentially, one happened, two happened when I was there, well, at home, and the other three happened when I left. The imprinting process starts from day one. And I mean, as soon as they're dry and mom is okay with it, we go pick them up, throw a halter on them, and we start playing with them, get them used to us. And once they get used to us, which tends to be 7 to 10 days, once they start coming to us freely, we're like, all right, you're good later. And they get to go be a horse with mommy. Other than that, that's kind of it. But I just wanted to share that was a big thing. Anything you wanted to add to that?
No, it's always. I mean, calving is always, you know, arduous.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tough. And this year we had some tough times.
We
Uh,
had three that I know of that were filmed, the frozen babies, and one of them was struggling even during branding season.
yeah.
And I know you looked at me and I looked at you and we both agreed. We're like, I don't know if saving her made her, did her any favors, but we'll see. It's just one
And
of those things.
it's one of those things. Yeah, I've never got seen one go that far down and still bring it back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm having some, and it sounds odd to people maybe, but uh, it just probably didn't do that animal any favors by saving it. Maybe been better off letting it die.
Yeah.
We'll
And
see.
why we say that because, the other two have frozen ears and a frozen tail, just like she does. What we get concerned about is her growth seems to be stunted
Yeah,
slightly. But then the other thing too is you watch her walk and there's a hind leg that she limps on and it's like there's nerve damage and
yeah, a
she is
little foot
just
issue.
she hurts. It's
And
clear that
that
she hurts and to us it's just we're not sure that's fair that we kept her alive. That's
Right.
kind of
Well,
what
and that's really indicative of why, um, even though you can lose an ear on a calf or a pair of ears, or they be cropped, and they go in the sale ring, and they don't want them. They'll just, you know, buy them from you for nothing.
yeah.
And most of the time they're fine. 95% of the time. But
Just
this is an
cosmetic.
extreme case. Yeah, it is. But this is one of those extreme cases, and it's the reason why they don't want to buy them to go into a backgrounder, or then onto a feedlot, is because sometimes they'll create that hardship that they went through with the frozen body. They will get digestive issues. They don't digest their food well, stunted growth. Their feet are not necessarily good. Again, that's a very classic reason why. But we've kept animals like that and butchered them ourselves, and or kept them, like ears is a really good example of that. That
Yeah.
cow is as sound as can be. And if we'd have sold her in the ring, well, we chose not to because we knew we wouldn't get anything for her. And
Right.
she's been one of the best cows we've kept. So, sometimes it's an excuse so that they can't, and I think we've talked about that. But this is one of those cases where that's why you wouldn't want to buy that animal.
Yeah.
Deuce is another one. She lost her ears, but she is a
I was
hog.
gonna say that's a good looking heifer. Like
She is a good
if you
looking
just
one.
if you took her head away and her tail away and you looked at her, you're like, whew, that's a good producing heifer right there.
Yes. Yep. She will conceive easily and often.
Yeah.
And a big blocky body. Yeah, she's a good one. So
And her name came about because she's gonna essentially be Ears 2.0. Ears
yeah.
is looking at the sunset of her life and her career with us.
In
And
in a few more years, and she's got
yeah,
some more life in her.
but
Fact
this
is,
is
she recovered so well last year. We went ahead and
yeah.
bred her this year.
We
She's
gave her a
just
year off.
yeah,
We gave her a year off, and Dad said, "Hey, she recovered enough that you know what, I'm just gonna
enough.
breed her again."
She's a porker. She's doing great. She's almost recovered too well.
That's all right. That's Ears for you.
Yeah. But
Uh,
other than
so go ahead.
they say that the calving is always long and tough, but those colts when they come, there's some extra special attention put onto them. But part of it is the value of them. Uh, Part of it is also our intrinsic value of a horse over a cow. I think
Right.
culturally we you know seem to think that they're worth more because we handle them. We can ride them, we can do things with them. So that symbol of power and freedom.
Well, and I think there's an aspect to it as well that you go out to the herd of cows, and to an extent, they're an anonymous animal that's
Yeah.
kind of skittish of you. And a great example of that being I dated a girl a few years back that I took her home and she met the horses and she looked at me and she's like, "Oh, they're like big dogs." I'm
Right.
like, yeah. And I think that's the difference is that tie comes from the fact that, you know, we tend to just like you get cat and dog people. I
Yep.
think the cats very much are similar to the cows,
Cows.
and the
Yep.
dogs are very much similar to the horses. And the fact that the dogs and the horses seem to find such a similar attitude where they want to nuzzle up against you and they just cuddle with it. That's kind of the same reason why people are like pony.
You're right.
You know.
Exactly. I think that's probably about all we got for now.
No, we got two more things.
Two more. All right.
Don't you cut me off.
Keep going.
Vacation, man.
Oh yeah.
You and mom got to escape very quietly. Don't
Yep.
worry, it's not gonna be that much longer. You got to escape very quietly to Kentucky and Tennessee to visit me,
Yep.
amazing old me. And we made a small video of it. Again, me throwing some audio awesomeness onto it. And got to experience some pretty cool stuff. Things that I did not plan to experience, but we got to experience it anyway. And it worked out in my favor in terms of whiskey bottles. So I'm gonna be moving home in less than a year. We're not given a definitive timeline anywhere out just for safety reasons and stuff like that. But within the next year, I'll be home. And mom and dad came also primarily to help move some of my stuff back home. Braden's girlfriend also had some stuff at my house that she made a screaming trip here when I was gone one weekend, dropped some stuff off in my garage, and it has sat there ever so patiently waiting for mom and dad to come pick it up with my stuff. And so it all just got packed into a U-Haul. They hauled it back home. But in between them arriving and them hauling all that stuff away, they got to see, goodness gracious, what was it, 8 distilleries with me over the course
Yeah.
of 2 separate days. And which is actually pretty impressive if you think about it. And then we went to Nashville one day and we got to meet some cool people. You guys have met some people for the first time, which was awesome. That was important to me. But you got to have a small mini vacation amongst 4 arduous travel days from
Oh.
Montana to Kentucky. You want to share some of your insight into
Well,
that?
when you
Oh,
got back
card
from
above. Let's throw that in there. Card above.
when you got back from Afghanistan, your pickup had been here the whole time you were there. And when you were coming
Yeah.
back, so I drove your pickup down and helped you move into a rental house that you had just gotten. And it
Which
was a
was not
2 day.
that wasn't the intention at first because I was in New York at the time. You were going to come visit me in New York and I was going to send you away from there.
Right.
But New York state law at the time, because of COVID, we were worried about you getting literally thrown in jail because people were getting thrown in jail for coming across the border without going into quarantine and stuff
Yeah.
like that. We weren't willing to risk it. Like, hey, just hold on.
We had a
Kentucky, I
plan on
know has.
staying in Pennsylvania and then doing some shenanigans across the county
We
roads.
did. We did, but it just wasn't worth it. So we're like, no,
Yeah.
it's all right.
So we delayed that, and I drove down to where you're at in Kentucky now, took your pickup to you, and it was a 2 day trip. And I drove 15 hours the first day, or 15 and a half, something like that, and found a place. Well, what actually happened is I got tired enough, and it was getting
Dark
really
enough.
deep into late dusk, dark, that going through Missouri, the side of the roads looked like, man, there could be white-tailed deer jumping out of
Yeah.
here anywhere. And I was
Yeah.
like, a lot of traffic, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just shut her down for the night. So your mom was on the phone with me, and she found a Holiday Inn Express for me and told me how to get to it. So I got there and had my first Chick-fil-A because it was right next to the motel at 10
What are your
almost.
thoughts on Chick-fil-A? I gotta know.
I really liked it.
Really?
I had never had one like that before. I've only been there. I've only had a couple of them, I think, but it was very good. Of course, I
Would
was
you?
so hungry I could eat the south end of a northbound
Okay.
skunk, but you know,
Because to me, I think Chick-fil-A is just so overrated. But
no, it was very good. You know what?
hmm,
And what I think was interesting, and I don't know, it's probably not that way now, but and it was probably COVID driven. But as you pulled up, you ordered, and someone they just kept there were people outside in the drive through
uh-huh.
and pushing the order in with a headset, and then they were bringing it out. I mean, it was very odd how they did that and did but it was very, very service oriented. I
Oh
was
yeah.
how service oriented it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had my first fit Chick-fil-A, got in a motel room, crashed for the night, and then I was gonna be up and at them, and because I was only like 35, 40 miles north of Kansas City. I don't drive in
Yeah.
big cities. I detest living like rats. Well, that didn't quite happen. I'm right in the middle of morning rush hour traffic at 6 in the morning and trying to follow a GPS that's talking to me and construction everywhere. and bumper to bumper. And I'm like, oh my God. And I made it through Kansas City. So this trip, and St. Louis is the same way. Well,
Yeah.
this trip, told your mother, I said, we're leaving early. And we left at like 2:30 in the morning. We couldn't sleep. We were going to leave at 3:30, but
Yeah. I
I was
remember
laying
that.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she couldn't sleep. And pretty soon I heard her say, are you? I'm like, yeah, let's go. So if you're up, we're leaving. So my goal, but I travel much slower with mom, because when I travel, I drive until I run out of fuel. I refuel, go to the bathroom, and I drive until I run out of
Yep.
fuel. That's how I
Yep.
do
You
it.
and I travel the exact same way.
You don't do that with mom. So that added about another 3 hours, two and a half hours on
Easily.
the
Yeah.
trip. With that long, that's a long distance. And so that was just right at 1,000 miles. And so my goal was to be on the east side of Kansas City for the night. And so we pulled in there, and your mom was so tired, found a Holiday Inn, dropped, and they're, I'm just not a plug for Holiday Inn, but one thing you can say about them, it was an express.
Yep.
You walk into one, you've walked into all of them,
Yep.
and they're very consistent. And you know what to expect, is not a
Yep.
guessing game. And so
It's
for that
not
reason,
it's not super fancy, but it's
no,
not like a low budget, like I might get
right,
shanked in the middle of the night
right.
type thing.
And
Yeah.
and you know what? When you look at what they have, a decent, okay breakfast in the morning, which you would spend $25 to $30 for a breakfast, and
Yeah.
have to find a place to find it and eat and sit down and wait and consume some time up that you should be traveling. So
Yeah.
to me, it's worth it. Anyway, got her in the motel that room that night, and she flat faced, starfished out on a bed. I almost had to talk her into going ahead and getting done, dressed and ready for bed. And but that was a long time. We were on the east side. We were actually in Independence, Missouri.
Okay.
And then the next morning was up, and then she helped, navigate me through St. Louis, which was a little different route than I had taken before. I went a little bit into the south, went right by the arch, which is pretty
Gotcha.
cool. And then out and then onto your place. I think we were only 8 hours that day, but
That sounds
so
about
which
right.
wasn't much, because I think it was 26 hours total. Yeah, 26.
Yeah.
So eight,
No,
18
I
and eight.
I'm been able to do it in about 22 and a half, but I was going one the opposite way and two by myself, doing what you said, which
Yeah,
is fuel, bathroom, maybe a drink of water, and you're
yep,
gone. That's it.
yep, yeah. I usually pack something, eat some jerky, some nuts, things like that. That's
Yeah.
high protein, and can just keep going. But yeah, that got down through St. Louis. That worked out okay, and then got to your place, and got to meet some people that night that we've been looking forward to meeting, and
Mhm.
really enjoyed that. And then started on our whiskey tour the next day, and uh,
Early.
early. Yeah,
the
well, I had to
first
leave.
the first tour was 10 o'clock, man. We
Yeah,
weren't
but
messing around.
no, we weren't. But and it isn't like you drink a lot of whiskey on these things. I mean,
No,
you
you
get
don't.
you get just a taste, and you get an appreciation, if you're listening, on how to look for good whiskey, and how to look for bad whiskey, and everybody's palate's different, and how to taste, and I mean, it's very, very educational. It really
Well,
is.
what's fun too is so in the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, there's two. There's the craft and there's the signature. So think craft is anybody thinks craft beer, right? And wherever you go, it's low guys, little guys, family run places. The signature is the big boys, Woodford Reserve, Angel's Envy, Maker's Mark,
Jim Beam.
Jim Beam, all these big names, right? Those are the signatures. There's a total of, I want to say 56 total. No, sorry, there's 42 total distilleries. I have been to all but 9 so far. I have to go to a 10th to get the stamp in my book.
But it's taken you
Um,
over two years, almost 3 years to do it.
yeah, and I've been doing it nice and slowly, but what I take with that, to your point though, is that with all that experience and all those different things I've done, every time they say, "Hey, this is how we like to do the tasting here," I always listen, because you pick up what they suggest might be a different way of ingesting it and
Yeah,
enjoying it. And that gives you a better breath to, okay, how can I try and find out what flavors I like the most out of this particular drink, which I think is fantastic. It's a really
yep.
cool experience, but
Well, and I never thought in a million years that when you eat a piece of chocolate and take a drink of whiskey, it's going to change your life, and it does.
It does.
Wow, that is
Even mom
incredible.
likes it.
Mom does not like whiskey, but she was a sport. She tried and tasted all of these
Every single
whiskeys,
one.
and she hates the taste of bourbon or whiskey, but she tried them, and there were some she actually liked. I thought, man, if you like that, I couldn't believe that. I mean, she'll never drink it, but she actually had an appreciation, is probably a better way to put that.
She joined us. She she visited me with my brother during Christmas of this past year, so about 6, 7 months ago. And we found out mom's tasting bill is $800+ because the bottles that she liked were that much,
The
because
expensive
that's,
one.
yeah, that's what it cost. And I took you to that distillery. That was one of our first ones on the
Yeah.
second day. And you're like, man, this is good stuff. I'm like, yeah, but we can't afford it. So enjoy it.
Yeah, because
uh,
the cheapest bottle I had was like $169. And like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm not, no, I'm not going to do that.
I know. And we've had those
But I liked
discussions
it.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Good stuff.
But mom of all things, goodness gracious, she goes to Jim Beam on our first day and we sit down at the tasting. It was a fantastically interactive tour. It was
Very
one of
good
the
tour.
longest tours I've been on. It was an hour and a half. Normally they're an hour or less. This was an hour and a half long at Jim Beam. But if you ever get the chance to go to Jim Beam, take it for the tour because it was super interactive. You got to do a bunch of things. Mom and dad got to bottle and do some stuff. Mom filled a barrel. You poured whiskey fresh out of a barrel and you tasted it, which by the way, that was fantastic stuff.
That really was excellent.
If you don't like Knob Creek, try Knob Creek Reserve. Good plug for Jim Beam right there.
You know, and I got to tell
Life
you,
changing.
I have never had an appreciation or never cared for Jim Beam. I always considered him to be bottom of the
Low end.
shelf,
Yeah.
low end, but not knowing that they also did Knob Creek, Basil Hayden, never heard of
Booker's.
that one before, and Booker's.
Booker's.
And Booker's is like, okay, I can't afford Booker's. You're starting at $200 a barrel or a bottle.
Sometimes,
And
yeah.
I did buy a bottle of Basil Hayden because it was very, very good. But
Yeah.
I've got a whole nother perspective about Jim Beam now. And I've had their Devil's Cut. And you know what? It is excellent.
And affordable.
Huh?
And affordable.
And affordable. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, yeah, it's affordable.
So,
But
and that's the
but
cool
what
thing
a
about the
great
tours too
tour.
is you get to see what some of those other things they do. Like Maker's Mark. Like Maker's Mark has the classic. This is Maker's. It's always going to say Maker's, but it has various differences. Like when you and I went,
Yeah,
when you visited me the very first time, we got to see. Oh wow, it's not just the regular Maker's. There's other
right.
stuff too.
Like 7 different offerings that they
At
had.
least, yeah,
Yeah. But no, that drinking a Knob Creek special reserve single barrel 11-year-old whiskey right out of the, and I don't think that had anything to do with it because they were just pouring it out, but I poured both my hands out. I cupped them like this. I poured into them and tasted it. It's like, my God, that I was blown away how good
I
that was.
I didn't realize Knob Creek's always been. It's I consider it a daily drinker. It's fairly affordable. I've got it in a handle form, so I can put a nice pour with a couple of rocks in there and just enjoy sip it for all night long. I've never considered it super good, but that stuff, holy cow, I did not think Knob Creek could taste that good.
It was
And
incredible.
that, like, hold on to your britches, folks. That was the one mom and dad, mom goes, oh, I like this. I was like, what? You and I looked at each other like, what?
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
gone from $800 whiskey to $60 whiskey. Now we're talking.
Yeah, no, that's well, we're on our way to the right direction anyway.
Yeah.
But no, there was a lot of Angel's Envy went there. I like their, and they're not a bourbon, they're a whiskey, because of the definition. But they are a
Yeah.
phenomenal one
I
too.
would
But
say they can be considered a bourbon, but oftentimes it'd be like a finished bourbon. If you're gonna say
well,
if you're gonna go down that route. But yes, they are technically a whiskey, but they would be a finished bourbon if you were to
yeah,
say that.
yeah, because they're using rum
Extra
barrels
boat.
in like
Yeah.
the rye, and
Yeah.
so it's already a used barrel. It's not a new
Yeah.
barrel, so that would.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's good. I really enjoy. That's a really good solid drinker, but it's a little pricey. you're talking, depending where you get it, $75 to $100 a bottle. It's like, ugh,
For the
oh,
rye. That's for the rye. For the
that's
bourbon, they do make
50.
straight bourbon, and that's around here it's 40. Other
Yeah,
places, I know
right
Braden
here.
said he can find it for 50.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But anyway, so no, that was a lot of fun. Got to do, drinking moonshine essentially right off the top of the still,
yeah,
with
the white
the
dog.
white dog or white lightning, whatever you want to call it, and it is amazingly smooth and
It
very
is.
consistent to
Yeah.
between distillers. I mean, it is, that's what they're getting, and then it's all in the finish is how they recognize their own brand, and
I
it
I
was very, very good
I
and
went to nine.
didn't burn. It was
No,
really good stuff.
I went to 9 distillers this last weekend to knock out more on my list. And I went to James E. Pepper, which is considered a craft distillery, but it's also got the number 5 Kentucky license.
Oh wow, it's an oldest.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But they got number 5. And same
Who
thing,
is not?
the
Who's one?
Heaven Hill.
Heaven
We
Hill.
found
Yeah,
that out. Yeah.
yeah.
But they had number 5 and they did the same thing right off the still. And I was like, man, this stuff's good. And somebody asked, like, do you guys make that in a bottle? And they're like, we used to, but not anymore. I'm like,
Ah,
oh, dang it.
yeah, yeah,
Stuff.
yeah.
But anyway,
That was good. A lot of fun. Nashville.
I was
I
gonna say,
went.
what was your thought on Nashville? Because you've always appreciated country music, even as a kid.
Yeah.
And
Oh
we
yeah.
got to take you to the Country Music Hall of Fame. We got to
Yeah.
take you to a couple bars so you could hear some live music.
Yep.
You got to see the Ryman
Yep.
Auditorium where
The old
the
Ryman, the
Grand
real
Ole
Ryman.
Opry originated.
Yes. What a
What were some of your
beautiful
thoughts on that?
building. Oh my God. I mean, that's like hollowed ground. It really is. And to sit in, to sit down in those, and they're really like, they were pews. It was a
Yeah,
church,
it was. Yeah,
and built as that, and to sit in there and think about all of the people that had passed through there, and all of the history that was in that place. Really, really cool. I'm so glad that they preserved that building.
yeah,
It's because it sat vacant for what, like 11 years or something,
something
20
like
years.
that. And it was already getting dilapidated at that point that they were like,
Yeah,
oh, it might fall over.
yeah, but they did a phenomenal job of restoring that, and I really enjoyed that. The Country Music Hall of Fame again. They take turns, and they've got some popular, new people in there, but they've got some
Yeah.
older people, a lot of old names, and some that I'd never heard of that were
Which
way old.
I was gonna say we also breezed through that too. Like
We
Braden,
did.
Braden and I, when we went through the first time, I think him and I spent 3.5 hours in
Yeah,
there. And unfortunately for you, like we were kind of like trying to go see other stuff like the
yeah,
Ryman and all that. And I think we were in there an hour, hour and a half at most. But yeah, I felt like I was kind of rushing you, so I was
yeah.
kind of trying to ease back, but I also knew you were wanting to also kind of push through. But yeah, we got to see some cool stuff there.
Yeah,
So
and the all of the different likenesses uh in the room that's where all of the Hall of Fame inductees are in.
yeah, yeah.
That was pretty
The
cool.
It's like a bronze plate with their faces kind of stamped off of it in
Yeah,
a sense.
some of them are really good, and some of them are like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, I
But
wasn't, especially I'll be honest, like I'm not a huge Hank Jr. fan, but Hank Jr. is a great example because it's got guys like him that had glasses, and when they have glasses in their picture, I think it distorts their face really
yeah,
bad, but it is what it is. So,
yeah. But then then we went down and listened to some music, and we grabbed something to eat. I wanted to have some
oh
barbecue,
yeah, yeah.
and we went to a couple places. I had it was a brisket, um, uh, cheese brisket, and between two pieces of tortilla. What do they call
Um,
it? Mom makes them for me all the time.
oh, like a quesadilla?
Quesadilla. There you go.
Yeah,
And it was, I mean, it was thick with the brisket, and I had a couple of craft beers there,
yeah,
and we were really wasting some time because it was pouring rain outside
yeah.
at
It
time.
was.
The building was even starting to leak, so it was. But we did that, and then we went into a couple other places and listened to some music, and yeah, some good music around it, but packed with people. and these obnoxious brides and their entourage everywhere.
Bachelorette parties.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. Like I'm glad it was early in the day because I'm sure it just got worse at
Oh
night,
yeah. Well, that's what
but
I said too. Is like we went during the afternoon. It gets at least 2 to 3 times worse at night, especially on a Friday or a Saturday night. Which we went on a Saturday, so it would have just been way worse. But
yeah. Then I think we topped off with going to enough time went by. We had supper at another barbecue place,
yeah,
and it
a
was
true barbecue spot. The other place was like
yeah,
kind of like a bar and grill. So we were like,
yeah,
hey, let's get you some real barbecue. And that
yeah.
was good barbecue, I
It
thought.
was good. It was very rich,
Yeah.
very almost too rich, but it was good. And I know that it's a southern thing, but hush puppies, not a fan.
Yeah, I'm not either. Never have been.
No, no. But I understand, that I mean that's just part of their food culture there. But
Yeah.
the ribs, the brisket, oh my God, that was just phenomenal. So want to do that again sometime. I just don't want to travel for it.
Yeah. All right. The last thing, wrap this up. We got a new pickup finally. Finally. After paying how many months? 5, 6 months?
We made 5 full payments on that pickup before we ever
Bef-
saw it.
Before you ever laid eyes on her.
And like, how does
Now
that happen, right?
now it came out of Laurel, a little town away from us, and no fault to them whatsoever.
No,
They were doing everything they could. The owner there was communicating with you, telling you what's going on, apologetic the entire time. It's just the way the system's going right now, the supply chain, chips, moving
manufacturer, yeah,
manufacturing, like moving the item itself though from parking lot to train to
yeah,
truck to location.
yeah.
But 5 full payments, and you guys were lucky because he said something about there's some people that had been paying a year and a
Over a
half and
year,
still hadn't seen theirs.
over a year. Well,
Yeah.
and I don't think they've been making payments on it. They've just been waiting for them.
Oh, okay.
It was an odd thing that happened. We knew we were going to get this pickup.
Yeah.
It was completely fine. Well, we had ordered a different pickup though, and that was I don't know last end of the summer,
Let's say
uh,
no, it was like October, November.
October, I think. Yeah, it was in
Yeah.
October.
Something like that. So we're
Yeah,
talking 8 months, 9 months.
yeah, and so we ordered the pickup, and I was going like bare bones with a few amenities in it. I want some heated seats. I'm getting the age that my former life is creeping up on me too, and so I sit too long, and those heated seats make a big difference. So several things like that, but not over the top fancy. And so we ordered it, and he called in like December and says, you're not going to believe this, but they have quit making what you want. They're not doing it now. They're going to the new 24s. So we can put together a 24 for you because it was a 23 I was after. I was like, oh, okay. They said everything's shut down for Christmas. They'll start bringing everything up in January, and as soon as they do, I'll let you know, and then we can be right on the very first line of orders and get that thing knocked out. I said, all right, we can do that. So he called us. We went down there. Well, the problem with it was they had it's like Henry Ford. You could get white, black, and red. And it's like, nope. I mean, you normally buy stuff for a color. It's things I won't buy, but I was like, oh God. And he said it's going to take a while, and it'll take another couple of months before they start getting up to what you really want. He says, but he says I do have one that was ordered and it's sitting and waiting, but it's not exactly what you wanted, so I didn't mention it. And so, but it's actually a little fancier packages, and so that when you go from a 23 to a 24, there's a huge price jump. Well, even with all this extra stuff on there, it was going to be cheaper than if we ordered. And so I said, all right, what's on it? And he told us, and I said, you know what? That'll work. He goes, great. So that we went ahead, and this was in, like the second week in January. So yeah, let's go ahead and we'll take that pickup. And he goes, okay. I mean, it was sitting waiting to be put on a train. And he says, we're expecting that thing to be here in about 2 weeks. Okay, that works out. Not a
Yeah.
problem. So we went ahead and had a big down to put on it because I don't like having big payments out there.
Right.
So talked to our banker and he said, yeah, no problem. I said, yeah, it's going to be here in 2 weeks. We did all the paperwork, got the loan. Went, great. Yeah, that was ambitious. So we made our first payment and the bank calls and says, yeah, we haven't gotten the title on that pickup and we haven't seen where you got insurance on it. And I go, well, funny thing, we don't have the pickup yet. And they're like, what? So we had just made the fifth payment. Couldn't get that thing here. The dealership, the manager that is just tearing his hair out. And it's a small local dealership,
Yep.
really good service.
It's a
You,
well-known dealership too.
oh
It's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
it's not like somebody who's just like they started up on the corner the other day.
No, no. It used to. They have since sold it to somebody else, but the guy who manages it, his name was on that. It was
Yeah.
their name on the dealership, but it is not in by any means their fault. They're frustrated because they can't get vehicles to people. How do you keep a business open? And the manufacturer, I guess, doesn't realize that those mom and pop and other dealerships, keep them alive. And
Yeah.
if they go under, they're in a world of hurt. So it's just messed up. And yeah, you feel so bad for them. But we got it. It was last Friday. We went down and picked it up and brought it home. And of course, it's got I put some window shades on it already, and we just had a decent
grill.
grill guard and um, you know, bumper on the front end of it, and we'll have steps on it because believe it or not, this one I use those steps to get in and out of it.
I saw the picture we posted on Instagram on actually today that we're filming, the 12th. It's a lot bigger than the 62 Chevy. It's
Oh, not even close.
about twice in height and again half the size wide. It's pretty large.
Well, and the 1-ton Ford that we've got with the 7.3 liter diesel,
Yeah. That's
it's
a
a
pretty
couple
good size
taller
pickup.
than that. Yeah.
It's taller than that.
Oh yeah, it's bigger than that. I mean,
Oh,
they've really made these things unbelievable. But it's got the diesel engine,
yeah,
it's got plenty of power.
that's good.
As I was going around a roundabout from a stop, leaving Billings,
Spin
and
that a little bit.
oh you could spin that thing in a circle if you want. I mean, it's like, whoa, I need some weight in the back of this or pull the
Easy
trigger
there.
or something because
Yeah.
it is amazing how much power they have. It's just stupid power. So that's yeah, something to get used to. But uh, we got a tonneau cover that's coming for it. Trying to keep this thing. Hopefully, this is the last vehicle I ever buy, or last pickup anyway. We can stretch them out there for 20 years, and I've done that. I've done that.
Same. I'm hoping this
30,
one goes another 25. That'd be fantastic. So
bro, that'd be way good because I've had two new pickups now since 1984.
yeah,
So this is the third one.
pretty good mark right there.
That's
So.
yeah. So I'm able to get 20 plus years out of them.
But we'll have a video of that eventually once we get everything put together. The grill guard thrown on there, any extra, razzle dazzle that Dad wants
Yeah,
to throw in.
we'll do a little tour of it maybe,
There you
and
go.
the only thing I hate about it, there's no key. It's got a stupid fob, and I
I
hate
knew it.
those.
I knew that
Hate
was
those
gonna
damn
happen.
things. God, I hate those.
With how much remember when we got stranded on the side of a road one time and somebody
Oh,
forgot a
God.
fob in his vest pocket at the house that we were moving from on the way to the house that we are moving to?
Would
Yeah, I
have done
remember
us
that
in.
too. And I remember you cussing about these damn fobs. I hate these fobs. I can't. I knew you were gonna get another one with a fob because you're just
Well, you
there's
can't
no
get
way
them
around
without.
it at this point. There's
No,
no
you
such
can't
thing
get them
without
without.
a key.
Right.
Like there's no way.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah, we've got that, and now we just gotta, keep it in some good shape and um, keep it inside when we can, and use the hell out of it when we need it.
There you go. Well, that's all I got. So that's
That's
a
it.
lot. That's a catch
Well,
up for 2.5 months, though. So
well, that is a long one. Yeah, I hope we haven't bored anybody too much. And although we can't pay them directly, you know how we do. We thank you till you're better paid.